So Tim, I do want to talk about Malik Washington because, like you said, you're pretty early on him in terms of his recruitment and what you thought about him. So I've kind of been having this conversation with people all week about who he is as a quarterback now versus his talent level and his ceiling for his career. So I want you to talk to me about what he was, what he is as a prospect. I mean, only 5 games in, still kind of a prospect in my mind. What he is as a prospect versus some of the other guys Nebraska's seen this year in terms of where he's currently at in his career. Because I made the argument, not to lead you down a certain path or anything, but I made the argument that at this point, I think Childs is probably a better quarterback, but maybe Washington has a higher ceiling. Talk to me about what he is now versus what you project him to be sort of down the line.
Yeah, I think of the quarterbacks Nebraska's faced, I think Washington has the second highest ceiling, and it's only behind Bryce, who, in terms of ceiling in the modern day quarterback prospect, I mean, Bryce is as high as it gets ceiling wise.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're getting with Malik and what we've seen from Malik early on, I've been pleasantly surprised with the confidence he's delivered with, and they've done a good job of surrounding him with weapons he trusts, and giving him just at least that floor of, hey, this. Like, honestly, I'll say this: I think Maryland's done a better job of giving him weapons to support him than Michigan has. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's been more drops on Michigan's end. I don't think there's like a trust there with guys. You're seeing, freshmen being thrown into action with Maryland. They've got three, kind of established receivers that he trusts right now, 3, 4 guys he trusts right now. So I'm going to be like really watching that, really seeing where his confidence is at against Nebraska's pass D. I think it's going to be a really good test for him. But where he's at this point, it's going to be, there's going to be bumps and bruises. I really think Saturday there's going to be like a pick, or he's going to make a reckless throw or a reckless decision or two that could potentially cost Maryland the game. But I don't think it ultimately says anything about his long term development. Is just kind of where he's at in his career. Like, he is still kind of the guy that's trying to make the play, that's trying to put the offense over the top. And he is still like trying to elevate the offense, which I give him credit for, and I think he's doing a good job of that. He in high school, something I've started to notice as now that I've kind of been able to like zoom out and see this over the course of a while, like I think this was similar with Cade Klubnik, a little bit, Garrett Nussmeier, and you're starting to see early on with Malik where the high school, Dylan honestly too, where the high school development kind of matches what the college development is, where year one with Malik so far, we are seeing some flashes, we are seeing some of this, and this is what it felt like pretty early on for him too. He did take over as a starter pretty early on at Archbishop Spalding, and he's a guy that I think early on you could see there's a confidence level there. There's a natural draw. That was something that was big for me when I was just kind of like asking around about guys, because it was just one of those things where he kept popping up at these quarterback camps and
Mm-hmm.
just these camps in generals, and guys were rallying to him. It's like all these other elite quarterbacks were there, and guys were like, "No, I want to throw it Malik, or
Mm-hmm.
I want to catch passes from Malik." And I specifically remember an anecdote from the Elite 11. It was the Elite 11 regional in New Jersey last year, where it's pregame, or it's pre-camp. It's pouring, and Bryce was there because this was the only camp Bryce could make. And then Missouri's quarterback, who they took last year, out of the Northeast, was there. I forget his name off the top of my head, but he was there. And then it was Malik, and those were the three like real headliners of the camp. And you can see Bryce, like you saw Bryce in the background, like throwing back and forth, like really trying to get comfortable with the ball in wet conditions. A couple of the quarterbacks, and then Malik's just kind of like, he's kind of just jogging around, like talking to guys, like and just kind of just like loosely warming up. And rain's coming down, they really get into the event, and he's just casually ripping it, and guys are slowly but surely like turning from the other quarterbacks and be like, no, I want to catch passes from Malik. And hearing that, and then like going back and watching the tape of that, like he's incredible. Like, he's going to be really, really good in 2, 3 years. And already right now you're seeing some of the flashes of that on tape, like the confidence he's able to deliver downfield with. He's a more precise, I think, downfield thrower right now than Childs and even Underwood are at this point.
Mm. Tim, when you are looking at, you said second highest upside of anybody Nebraska's faced, where would you put him right now as a quarterback in terms of the quarterbacks Nebraska's faced?
I think he is probably fourth, just because of what we did end up seeing from Childs. I think
Okay.
as prospects, I prefer Washington a little more, but the Childs we got on, like, Childs played, like he did everything he could as a, and in terms of like the dual threat element of it, and trying to pressure Nebraska downfield. I think right now he's probably fourth of, Bryce. I mean, Sorsby is legit up there, right? Just in terms of what he is right now.
Yeah, clearly
Um,
for sure.
yeah, right. So, yeah, I think he's fourth right now, and that's, I think, part of this too is, like, at the same time, I think there's been this all week of, oh, they got Malik, they're 4-1, they have Sidney Stewart, they have Zahir Mathis. I think overall, looking at this team through this week, they're not overall. I mean, even with Malik, like, I don't think they're better than Michigan State. I think they have better top end talent, and I think specifically at splash positions, which are, kind of the positions that matter, they are better, but. I think overall Nebraska is the more complete team.
All right, Tim. So, from what you've seen in two Big Ten games so far from Malik Washington, when it comes to how he played against Wisconsin, then how he played against Washington, and then lining up to get ready for Nebraska, what can Nebraska do similar that got under his skin, that forced that interception, that kind of got him uncomfortable, especially in that second half, comparative to what we saw from Malik when he was performing very well against Wisconsin defense that I don't think is up to snuff with the rest of the Big Ten, but do you think Nebraska is closer to that Washington standard, or are they above that? Is there something similar that you see there?
Oh, I mean, they're close. I mean, just they're the number one pass defense in the country, and at this point, we have enough proof to be like to say that, and it's not just, again, they're not just number one; they are by a good margin. So, when you look at what like this weekend, I think it's just play your game, like get after him up front, um, stake and play and make it tough for him to find open windows to throw to, because he is the kind of guy at this point in his development where he's going to force throws. He's going to want to. They can't really run the ball. They are going to kind of lean on him. There's going to be opportunities to bait him into mistakes. As a young quarterback, the goal for Nebraska is just to kind of rattle him and get him to that point. They did that with Childs last week, who is not a young quarterback, but I think just follow that formula. I play pass defense. They don't need to complicate it. I don't think there needs to be anything complicated to get under Malik Washington's skin. Just at this point in his development. But if you get after him, I think if Williams takes a nice step up, I thought Keona had a pretty unsung day, and obviously I think McCullough's coming along, but those three guys keep doing what they're doing, and in the back end, they continue to hold up. I feel pretty good about Nebraska's chances of just forcing a mistake or two in the second half.
So, Tim, I want to follow up on what you just said there about like keeping it simple, kind of doing what you do. If John Butler wants to make this more complicated for Malik Washington, do you think that forces more mistakes, or does that give him a chance to maybe take advantage of some things with Nebraska if they don't want to play straight up? Do you see it as more Nebraska's Jimmys and Joes are just better and they can just play straight and just be able to handle that? Or is there a chance that Nebraska can get really tricky with it and force some of those bigger opportunity plays?
I think in general, when I say keep it simple, I think it's just like literally just keep doing what you're doing. No, I don't think it's keep it simple as in like you need to dumb down the defense or anything, or need to just like kind of just play base or anything. Like, no, I think Butler's done a good job of mixing it up, changing up the look, confusing the front. Again, more of that. Like, again, I don't know, like for Malik specifically, I do think he is a good leader, and I do think he's got a very he's further along mentally as a quarterback than most, but he is still a young quarterback. He hasn't seen all that many looks. We saw with Dylan last year, where by midseason you have an idea of what looks confuse him and what looks give him trouble. John Butler's better to speak on that than I am, but I think there is stuff on tape that I think Butler can replicate, and I think just in general, I think there's looks Nebraska can give with the personnel they have. I mean, you talk Jimmys and Joes, they have bodies, Javen Wright, Deshaun Singleton. You have bigger outside corners too. You have bodies that can control space and stick in one-on-one coverage where, yeah, you can dial it up and you can make the picture crowded for him. You can kind of send some pressure after him and trust your guys to hold up in space, because you have the Jimmys and Joes, and you also have the size and the experience to know that, hey, Javen's going to be able to cover ground quickly. Deshaun's going to be able to cover ground quickly. That frees you up as a defense to be able to do some things up front and kind of send some pressure, because you have two bigger bodies covering a lot of space.
All right, Tim, we've talked a lot about Malik Washington. That's one of the things that I think has Nebraska fans a little bit concerned. The other is certainly the pass rush. You mentioned Stewart on the outside, who gets a lot of the headlines. what is your level of concern about Nebraska being able to handle the pass rush of Maryland? As you said, their high-end talent's really good. Behind that leaves some things to be desired. How much do you think Nebraska can – do you think Nebraska can get past that pass rush enough to get to that talent that's maybe not as good?
Yeah, I weirdly think this game comes at a solid point for like this offense in general to just be like, okay, you've gotten 2 weeks now to look at to be pressured and figure out how to run an offense and get past getting pressured. And so yeah, I mean I think going into this, I've kind of already okay, I think Sydney's going to get at Dylan once. They're going to get up at least two sacks. Like there's going to be that on Saturday. They've done this every game at this point. Um, from there, what I'm looking for is okay. We've seen against Michigan, it wasn't really there, but against Michigan State, it was. There's a pocket for Dylan to climb into that he sometimes isn't doing it. There are times where Dylan could deliver the ball a little faster. I think Dana, owned some of that too of a play call. I think in general, this offensive staff and this offense in general through these last 3 weeks, including the bye, has gotten an idea of how they want to react to pressure, how they want to kind of adjust when they have to throw hot and when they have to move hot. And I would hope, my hope is that they have some better answers on Saturday against a front that is going to look to pressure them off. And what I'm looking for from Dylan is a little more composure and okay, like don't get rattled just because Sydney's in your face. I think progress through reads quicker. Something I thought was a little just like something in retrospect, looking back at the Maryland game, his time to throw drop when he was under pressure, and that's not like, in a bad way. Like I don't think that's I think that's something that actually needs to speed up, of course. And so I'm looking for just improvement in that aspect, stepping up into pockets. I think the interior of Nebraska's line is going to be able to hold up. And honestly, like I do think more often than not, like last week, I was pretty harsh on the O-line in the immediate aftermath of the game. And then after one rewatch, I was like, okay, I was already too harsh. And then we listened to Dana Holgerson talk and I rewatched again and I was like, well, I was really harsh. And so now that we've gotten, like a full week from the game, like I, if the offense can stay on schedule better than they did last week, I don't think, and that's not on the O line. If the offense can stay on schedule, and kind of move the change and make things easier for themselves, I don't think it will come down to the O line like it did at times last week.
Tim, have you noticed at all? This is anecdotal. I haven't charted this the way I did kind of the time to throw, but have you noticed at all a difference between Dylan in shotgun versus under center in his ability to get the ball out quickly? Because it seems like, to me, anecdotally, that when he's in shotgun, he's much, much better at just getting that ball out, whether it's the wide receiver screens to Isaiah Hunter or finding somebody quickly. Do you think that's something they may cater to a little bit more if that's the case?
I need to go back and watch because anecdotally, just in from what as far as I can remember, I feel like most everything under center has also been more long developing concepts too, which is part of it.
Yeah.
Where with shotgun he does have like something quick to get to, but yeah, I mean there's part of that too. I think he does kind of see it better at shotgun from the shotgun right now. I think him having a more traditional like shotgun drop back is something that I just think the eyes are clear there. But yeah, I think I need to go back and watch to confirm that though.
Tim, when you look at the two teams obviously matching up here, what's the biggest talent discrepancy on what you'll see sides of the field like playing against each other? So Nebraska's receivers against Maryland's D-backs, that sort of thing. Is there one position versus position group that you see as a huge advantage for Nebraska?
I don't think it's a huge advantage, but I do think Nebraska's receivers against Maryland's DBs, just because of what I think about Nebraska's receivers right now. I think the play of I noted it in my like more three Huskers I want to see more from story, but I think Saturday is kind of a breakout opportunity for Dane just because he's probably going to get a favorable one-on-one matchup, maybe for the first time in a couple of years. I think defenses, through what they've seen from this first month, are going to be a little more keyed in on Barney, a little more keyed in on Isaiah. You're getting to the point where Nebraska's offense, which I don't remember the last time it's been like this, but you are kind of in pick your poison territory as a defense, where you kind of have to pick who you shade, who you kind of lean towards, because one of those guys is going to get open, and you are against a Maryland, specifically this Maryland defense. you're going to be able to find a matchup you can exploit. You just need to figure out how Maryland chooses to match up on you, how they choose to kind of adjust to personnel. But I think it's an opportunity for Dane, one of those three. I think one of those three is going to just get favorable matchups throughout the day where Dylan's going to be able to exploit it, the offense is going to be able to exploit, and come late, I think that's going to be big for Nebraska.
Tim, as you kind of looked at Maryland and say, hey, this is a team that hasn't really shown any willingness at all to run the football, even when they're up 3 scores in the fourth quarter, and probably should try and salt that thing away. Do you think we're going to see any departure from that with considering what Nebraska's pass defense is, or you think they're just going to be like, hey, this is what we do, and we're going to see if we can beat them?
I mean, I'm sure they'll try, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't think there's anything to be encouraged. I mean, my bold prediction for the game is I think Nebraska's going to hold them under 65 rushing yards, which they've only done once. But and again, I don't know how much of that's going to be like, oh, look at Nebraska's run D. Like, it would be good for them to do that, but I don't think it's much to write home about just because that's how poorly I think of kind of Michigan's run offense. But no, I don't know. Like, I'm sure they'll try. I don't see anything where I'm like, okay, I'm really concerned about. Like, are they breaking one? Is it? They're not. Like, I don't think so. Like, I mean, like, if anything, and I do want to say this too, because I heard some of y'all's discussion earlier this week, and y'all mentioned it a little bit, but I kind of just wanted, like, we saw it against Michigan State. We saw it against Cincinnati towards the end of that game as well. If your defense is playing to the point where the only thing that's really working for the offense is the QB run, you take that more than not. And I think John Butler has made that, like, against Michigan State. I think that's what that came. Like, they took away everything else for the most part, but the QB run. And I think that Cincinnati second half, like, you started to see that a little bit as well, where it was like, okay, Sorsby scrambling is really the only thing that's like really working for these guys. And I think that's a testament of a good defense. And I also think, but that's where tomorrow, yeah, I mean, if they're going to find any success again on the run, it's going to be Nebraska has everything so bottled up. Malik's just going to take off and go and really do it for the first time in his career, because he's capable of doing it. He just hasn't had to do it or hasn't done it all that much to this point.
Oh, so yeah, he's only got the 11 carries recorded 5 games so far. So it's not something, despite his abilities, that he's really.
And he's like different. Like, he's not a power, like, he's a big physical body that's tough to bring down, but he's not like a power runner like Sorsby. He's not the athlete in space that Bryce Underwood is. He's not shifty like Childs, like, or he's not like elusive like Child. Like, he is just kind of just like a big body that can glide, and it is kind of like, it's not Cam, but like there is kind of some of that where it's like, okay, like he just covers ground quick, where like if you don't account for him, he'll pick up like 10 to 15 in a hurry.
Is that kind of like that the Blaine Gabbert style, where he's just kind of the strider and just has kind of the ability?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, Gabbert. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that sense, though, when he's standing in the pocket, does that present a new challenge for the defensive ends to be able to bring him down if he is that different type of body type?
Yeah, but I mean, I think Nebraska's capable. I mean, they're big. Deshaun's big. Williams is big. Like, I don't think it's and they've had an experience. They've had an opportunity. Like I think, like, having seen Sorsby and having seen Underwood before has better prepared them for this, because they've seen what these bigger quarterbacks look like and how tough they are to break down. And honestly, at this point, I just kind of trust Nebraska's like ends to be able to. It's not about, like, for them, it's about getting home for sure. But like, at this point, I think Williams and Deshaun are doing a good enough job of making these guys feel pressure more often than not. That even if it's not recorded as pressure, I think they're doing a good job of that. That they're going to have opportunities on Saturday.
Tim, real quick here before we let you go, I know there's a little bit, we've been talking a ton about 2027, 2028. There's a little bit of 2026 recruiting buzz left on the table there. What work do you think Nebraska still got to do here in the 2026 class?
Yeah, so they had a Virginia commit last week on campus. He's going to get back for an official visit. They're battling Penn State there, battling Vanderbilt, and I think Syracuse is going to try and insert themselves in that recruitment as well. But that's really one that's left for them. They're checking in. They're doing their due diligence on some of these staffs and programs that are seeing decommitments. And, like, North Carolina right now, there's a few guys in that class I think Nebraska would like another shot at. Tyron Wortham, a 4-star receiver, just decommitted from Michigan State. That's one they're checking in on. He's out of Florida. Not like the big body receiver target they look at, but I think he's the type of receiver talent they make an exception for and maybe add as a third receiver in their pursuit of one. Then defensive line, we're still waiting to find out who emerges out there. They have an offer out to a Damod Lewis out of Myers Park out in Charlotte. He's the younger brother of Damian Lewis, Carolina Panthers offensive guard, and so Rule drafted him. And so that connection, I don't know for sure what the Lewis family's connection is with Rule. It could be good, could be bad, it could help Nebraska, but that's one I'm keeping an eye on just because he's lining up some visits. I wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska gets him on an OV before it's all said and done. It reminds me a little bit of like Cam Leonard, like at the same time their development, just like similar type of like kind of edge prospect that can develop into a true like defensive end in a three-man front. So like that's kind of what I'm looking for. And then, I mean, they're looking for a big safety. They're looking for they're hoping to flip a Tadarius Hughes. We've heard kind of recently Jacob Eberhardt is at least open to potentially looking around. We'll see if that actually happens. And then the other one I would keep an eye on just because I don't think the door is 100% closed is Devin Jackson, the Oregon commit. Oregon's making it well known they want to keep him in the class, and they are making it known from a financial standpoint that they don't want him going anywhere else. But Odom's been peer recruiting him. He's got a really good relationship with Addison Williams. It wouldn't surprise me if when Odom visits later this year, I think he's aiming for November 1st. When Odom visits, it wouldn't surprise me if he's accompanied by Devin Jackson. But if you're looking for like the realistic targets, I think it's Tadarius Hughes, the Florida State safety commit. They're working to flip him. Cameron Wilson, they're still working to flip the Syracuse edge commit. And then at receiver, they are still looking to flip Josiah Teasley, the Virginia commit.
That's our guy, Tim Verghese, Inside Nebraska. Tim, great stuff. As always, enjoy your wedding. I hope they have some terrific baked goods there for you, and we will talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys.